What's up, my bro Chachoses? Moshe Movember, dog. Got it going on. So, yeah, wanted to come in here and make this video. It's one I've been wanting to make for a little while now. So, Reflex has the best terrain deformation system of any motocross game out there, period, right now, currently. And I don't even really think it's up for debate, to be completely honest with you. Like, I simply don't think there's even like a close second. I really don't. They've had plenty of different renditions of it. This is really where it started strong. I'm not exactly sure what motocross game put it in first, like, you know, technically. I'm playing with one hand here. I don't know which motocross game really did it first, but Reflex was certainly the one, one of the first ones, especially the first one to really do it, like it actually be a big key feature of the game. And I think it's the best one to date so far, and that was, you know, a decade ago. Is that not insane? One of the first ones to put it in there, and 10 years later, it's still the best terrain deformation system in any motocross game. There's just, you know, when people talk about Reflex being the greatest, and Reflex was, oh, so much fun, and it was so good, like, people just underestimate what all that really entails, you know, and the terrain deformation system of it is just one aspect of it. It's just one proving factor of why Reflex is the greatest arcade motocross game of all time. It's the Michael Jordan of arcade motocross games. Like, it's the first one to break that door down. You can have some that are good, you know, LeBron, but you ain't ever going to have that same impact that Michael Jordan had. It ain't going to be there. So that's kind of the nature of Reflex. Like, it's just not going to be the same, right? So, but, yeah, so, oh, I didn't piss off some basketball fans there. But, it's funny, dude. Like, you can't say anything in this world anymore without pissing somebody off, so you might as well just piss everybody off. That's basically the way I look at it. Like, I mean, you know, you could sit there and restrict yourself in everything you say, but it gets to the point where you couldn't even talk. If it's like you're trying to not offend people, then you might as well just don't even talk, because you're going to offend somebody by saying anything. So, you know, I go the opposite direction. I'm like, dog, I'm going to say whatever the fuck I want to say, and whoever wants to stay can stay, whoever wants to go can go. Like, it's all good, bro. But, you know, people just get offended over the smallest shit now. I mean, it's like over nothing, bro. But, you know, almost to the point where you can't even say anything anymore. It's crazy. So, either way, back to the topic of the video. Pretty much like with Reflex's terrain deformation system, there's a lot of different aspects that make it so great, but I know they put it in a lot of games since Reflex. You know, I think you had a rendition of it in Alive, you had a rendition of it in, you know, MX vs. ATV Supercross, slightly different in both those games, and then obviously the Milestone games have kind of been getting it a little more here recently. I know they didn't really have it in like the MXGP, the first game, and MXGP2. It wasn't really that big of a thing, and then now it's starting to become a bigger deal, even though it's still really not that big of a deal in the Milestone games. It's just not even enough. It's not even enough terrain deformation to really be a big deal. You know, it just, that's the way it is. So, yeah, I mean, does the Milestone games have terrain deformation? Yeah, but is it enough to really be like, oh, hey, that's actually terrain deformation? Not really. I mean, just me personally, I've always thought the Milestone, even the newer games like the Official Monster Energy Supercross game and MXGP Pro, to me, it seemed almost more like a visually changing thing than it is an actual gameplay changing thing. So, and then obviously MX Simulator with the road, it's kind of became a bigger ordeal the past year, running it in the pro racing this past year. So, you know, up until these last couple years, Reflex was pretty much the only game that really even had a terrain deformation system, and now some of these other motocross games are kind of coming around to putting it in and stuff. But yeah, it's kind of like, you know, there's ruts in real-life motocross. It's a massive aspect of real-life riding. It truthfully is. And, you know, what I try to always say is it's not only ruts and terrain deformation, but it's just track, different types of things that can happen to the track over time, and different types of tracks and different compounds of dirt. It's not just like every track needs to have ruts or every track needs to have roughness. It's more of a, like you could have a hard pack track that doesn't really rut up at all. You could have, you know what I'm saying? Like, you could have a hard pack supercross track that stays pretty hardcore, like no ruts, and it could even be a brownie mix hard pack track and not rut up like a whole lot. You know, it could be a super hard based. And so there's a lot of differences. It's not just as simple as looking at it like, you know, oh, well, put terrain deformation in there and make every track rut up and get roughness. I hate when people look at stuff like that, or like, every track needs to have ruts that are forming over time. No, they fucking don't. There's some real life tracks that don't rut up like that, you know? And then you've got sand tracks that rut up and get roughness totally different than like a soft loam brownie mix track, and all the tracks make different kinds of roughness and ruts and stuff. And that's one of the biggest aspects that a lot of these games struggle with, other than Reflex, is it's like the ruts feel the same no matter what kind of track you're on, no matter what kind of track compound you're on. It's like the terrain deformation does the same thing over it. And that's a massive issue because it creates this very repetitive feeling to the game. Whereas with Reflex, like if you go to the sand tracks in this game, they're going to rut up totally different. They're going to be like more bigger berm, smooth style ruts, and they're going to make more choppy style roughness like an actual sand track would make, and just bigger berm style things in the corners. It like literally makes its own corner on the sand tracks in this game when you run quite a few laps on it. Whereas if you go to like one of the dry hard pack tracks in this game, it doesn't rut up all that much at all. You know, it might make a couple little blue groove style ruts, but it's not making nothing like the sand tracks make. And this normal standard, almost like a you know, mammoth style, somewhat brownie mix type of track, it's making some ruts, but it's not like insane like the sand tracks, you know. So you've got all of those different kinds of fillings, and you've even got the like the Razorback red clay style motocross tracks in this game that have a lot of the water sections on them that make completely different rut designs in that as well. And so, you know, that's what Reflex, I feel like, done the best with their terrain deformation system, is just simply making it feel different on different types of tracks. And that's like such a key element to it. I can't even stress it enough. It's everything to it, really. And that's something that like Reflex, or not Reflex, I meant to say MX Simulator. I'm getting confused here. You know, that's something that MX Simulator struggles with, because basically every track in that game, when you turn the E-Road on, you're just turning the E-Road on. You're not really making like, it's not like, oh, well, okay, this is a sand track, so it's going to make these kinds of ruts or these kinds of bumps. Or, oh, this is a hard pack track, so it's not going to make as hardcore ruts or bumps. Or it's going to make more choppy, like, you know, hard pack bumps versus big sand roller bumps and stuff like that. Like with MX Simulator, yes, you can adjust how much it's eroding, but you can't adjust the type of erode that it's doing. So I hope one day MX Simulator can get to the point to where, you know, you can actually go in there and adjust more things with the erode, like have a lot of little sliders in there where it's like, okay, this is going to be like a sand track erode, or this is going to be like a hard pack track erode, or it's going to be like a mud track erode style. You know, there's got to be different erode styles in MX Simulator for that to ever get to the level that it needs to be to really have like a true erode system in that game. You know, it's funny because 10 years ago, Reflex had that. And you get all these other newer motocross games like MXGP Pro, even some of the newer, you know, MX versus ATV games, they still just can't figure that out. They just can't do it. Even with MX versus ATV All Out, I know they've added some, you know, improvements and touches and stuff to that to make it a little better, but it's just not the same, man. So let me try to go to T-break. Alright, so I got us on Prairie Valley here. So this is obviously one of the dry hard pack tracks here. Oh my god, I totally botched that jump start gate there. Okay, so I'm going to run, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 laps on this one. Just kind of show you the difference, you know. But I guess the biggest difference I probably could have showed you was like the sand track versus a hard pack track. We may go to that here in just a second, but it's hard to show it without running a crap load of laps, and then this video is going to be like 3 hours long, so I'm not really trying to do that here. Oh, God. Dude, I used to have these tracks, like, learn like the back of my hand, dog. This little jump right here, you can actually sky that out Oh, I did it. Holy shit. I actually did that. Oh my god. Wow, that was one of those lines I used to have really down hard pack back in the day. I could hit it like every lap, but now it's like I actually have to try to do it. Like I actually have to think about doing it to be able to do it properly. You have to like scrub that little roller right before it just perfectly and barely come off the ground at all, and you can, it gives you just enough momentum where you can jump all the way up into those rollers there. So, yeah, dude, I just love this game, man. Like, god dang, this game is where it's at, bro. For the arcade motocross fans, if you haven't played this game, I'll even go to as far as to say, if you haven't played this game on Xbox 360, then you don't know what you're missing. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, even on the PC, for what it has to offer with all the custom tracks, you don't know what you're missing. Both aspects. I feel like if you don't play this game, if you've never played this game on PC and like Xbox 360, you don't fully understand the greatest arcade motocross game of all time. You just don't get it. You know what I'm saying? You just don't understand, like, oh my god, the kind of scrub action you can get going in this game. It's so much fun, dude. Like, just that endless amounts of gameplay. Like, god dang, dude. So much fun trying to master that side of it. Then you got the whole freestyle trick, freestyle courses, free riding tracks, the whole 9 yards, but yet people are out here defending these milestone games like, oh, it's just got supercross tracks. That's okay. Oh, you idiots. Just people just so clueless, man. Oh, they'll never get it. I tried to show them, but they'll never get it. They'll never ever understand, you know. Like, it takes a lot of aspects to make a really good motocross game, and content is one of the heaviest hitters of them all, man. If you don't have enough track content, don't matter what the hell the actual gameplay feels like. If there ain't enough stuff to ride on, it don't even matter. It don't matter anyways. You know, you have to have content. Like, if MX Simulator didn't have any custom user-created content, it would be nothing. It would be an absolute shit game if it didn't have custom content to it. And that's just the way it is. But you see the monster that MX Simulator has become, and that's because there's a lot of content for it. That's the whole reason. So, but not the whole reason, but that's a big reason. You know, you got to have that content first, and then it becomes, well, how good is the physics? How good is the skill gap? How good is all this other stuff? So you guys can kind of see how the track's rutting up here a little bit. You know, it's just making different kinds of rut. Alrighty then, here we go. So we're on the Sandwick track. I actually did do a rut tester video on this track right here. So I was able to show you guys what it makes when it, you know, you run like 20 laps on it. It's a massive difference from what the track looks like on lap 1. I mean, even with this track, like, you're able to make ruts and berms in the corners that weren't there just on like lap 2 or 3. Holy shit, Ricky Carmichael, calm your titties. Try to make a video here. God dang, dude's like running it in on me and shit like that. Okay. So let's see. So this is a big jump when you jump it all the way down. Got to be a little careful on that. So you can see how these corners are pretty smooth. It's just smooth sand corners. There really ain't too much going on there. And this is one of those tracks, seems like every lap it's making a little bit more. The ruts are getting a little deeper. That berm's getting a little bigger. Them braking bumps are getting a little more extreme. You know, every lap it feels like it's doing that. Whereas, like on a hard pack track, you're probably going to see a more of a difference like on lap 4, 5, 6. But it's not just going to continue to sit there and beat it down like it would one of these sand tracks. It's just not going to do it. So that's what I'm saying. That's the difference of terrain deformation that I'm talking about in these games, man. But it's just all about finding that balance. You know, like where, especially with MX Simulator, you got to have more of a difference in the way it feels on the motocross tracks and the supercross tracks. You can't have motocrossy road on a supercross track. It just does not work at all. Supercross tracks, ruts are designed totally different. They're a totally different animal. They're smaller. A lot of times they're you know, there are some supercross tracks where the ruts get gnarly. I'm not trying to question that. I'm just saying for the mass majority of supercross tracks, especially back in like the 2012-13 era of Villapoto and all those dudes, them tracks weren't super rutty. They just weren't. I mean, there was some here and there. I think that's something that's kind of became a bit more of a thing here in the recent years with supercross, is the the ruddiness of some of the tracks. It's like they really prep the tracks hardcore and dig them down where they're starting to get more ruddy and stuff like that. Now, you can already see that rut right there. Look at that. Like, built a brand spanking new rut that wasn't even on the track to begin with on lap 2. So, you know, that's the difference. Whereas it wasn't doing that to that extreme on those other tracks I was on a while ago. There's, you know, the Brownie Mix hard pack and the just hard pack dry Blue Groove style track. Whoa, Betsy. But yeah. And so that's basically the difference that I'm talking about there. I hope I was able to kind of, you know, show that to you guys properly. But Reflex knows what the hell they were doing, man. It's crazy. It's just insane that you can look back to a game like this and just everything about it was like, it's weird to me because I always thought, like, back in the day, like, am I the only one that likes Reflex better than Alive? You know, it's like, this is weird how... Why does Reflex feel so much better than all these new motocross games coming out? Like, am I the only one thinking that? Once I got into the YouTube realm and realized what, you know, the real motocross fans actually were thinking, I was like, oh, shit, thank God. You know, everyone does realize Reflex is that amazing. You know, Reflex is the legendary arcade motocross game. So it all kind of made sense to me once I got into the internet realm with it all. So it was kind of cool to see that. But... yeah, man, hopefully some of these future motocross games can get her figured out on the terrain deformation. It's one of those things where it's difficult because you almost don't have the track that you had if you make the terrain deformation to the point to where it needs to be on certain tracks. So then, therefore, it's really weird when you're trying to design a track because then you're designing it around the terrain deformation and then all this stuff. Reflex just found a way to balance all of that. Like, there's certain tracks in Reflex where you don't really notice it too much, and there's certain tracks where you do notice it a lot, but it's not like overbearing. Whereas like MX Simulator, it's just like, oh my god, this road, like, what is this shit? It's just like all the time, dude, on the pro racing, every race, the E-Road just seems so, it just does not need to be like that, man. There needs to be at least 30 or 40, maybe even 50% of the tracks that are like not all that hardcore of terrain deformation. Maybe even more than that. You know, I think you need to have all of the spectrum. That's my biggest thing with it, is the variation of having all different types of track compounds, rut design, roughness design, pre-baked ruts and roughness design combined with, you know, terrain deformation, overtime design stuff. I want the variation of all of it. I want all of it in there, and that's all that's going to do is just give you more of a realistic feeling. You know, you never want too much of any particular thing. That's where it's at, dude. You get pretty much every kind of bigger standard style of dirt in motocross in Reflex with its terrain deformation. You get all of those different kind of fillings. You know, hard pack, sand, brownie mix, muddy. You get all those aspects in the game. So it's just a very cool system that they've done to it, man. But hopefully over time them dudes can, you know, figure it out and try to make it work. It's just, it becomes very, very difficult to make a proper terrain deformation system whenever it gets to a certain point. It's like the difficulty to make it like Reflex is super hard. Like, it's not hard to put a terrain deformation system in a game. I feel like any motocross game can do that, but to make it really, really good, that's what's like the golden ticket. You know, that's what all these people are having trouble with. It's just hard to get it like where it's balanced. You know, it's got enough but not too much. It's got variation to it. It's got different fillings to it. It doesn't rip you out of your seat on every single rut, but and it makes the right roughness. You know, there's some motocross games where it feels like it's just making ruts. It's not even making roughness at all, but that's part of terrain deformation. You know, it's every aspect of it. It's kickers, it's roughness, it's rollers, it's braking bumps, it's ruts going up a jump face, it's ruts in the corners, it's making berms bigger, it's sand bumps, it's, you know, it's every little aspect of it. That's terrain deformation. So some of these motherfuckers out here get it twisted thinking it's just like a rut maker. No, dog, it's the whole 9 yards of it. And with MX Simulator, it can't even have ruts going up a jump face because that terrain deformation system only makes ruts when you're turning. So it's like, good lord, bro, that rut system is nowhere near ready nowhere near ready to be put in the pro racing. Not even close, dude. But yeah, so either way, Reflex, greatest terrain deformation system in any motocross game currently. Could change in the future. I don't see it happening anytime real soon, but certainly could change, but we'll just have to wait and see. So either way, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.